I had a spiritual director when I was in the seminary who said something to me almost 40 years ago now that has very much stayed with me. I was complaining to him, perhaps I was even worried actually, that I would not know how to address the experiences of people had I not had those same experiences myself. For example, can I know about marriage if I am not married? I'm not divorced. What can I say to somebody who's going through a divorce? What can I know about depression when I've really never suffered depression? What would I be able to say to somebody who is a victim of a crime or a criminal? And he turned to me and he said, Gary, you have had that experience already. As a matter of fact, Gary, you have had every experience already. At least in some small way, you have known that. So if you find yourself at a loss for words, and you don't know how to connect with this person talking to you, go to your room, shut the door, and think about your life. Because there's a very good chance that you've had that experience already. At least in some small way. You have known that. You've known that. And you need to get in touch with that experience that perhaps, as I am given to do, I buried very well and ignored for too long. In other words, he was saying to me, I may not have been married, but I know something of the temptations, the struggles of infidelity. I know the fears of intimacy. I know what it's like to live with frustration and the pleasures of life. And I know the joys of genuine connection with another human being. And I may not know divorce personally, but I know what it's like to see relationships break down, fall apart, and end. I know that. I may not have been the victim the way this person in front of me was a victim or been betrayed like she was, but I do know what it's like to be betrayed. And I do know what it's like to be the victim of other people's choices. And I have had my trust betrayed. I've been a victimizer too, because anybody who hurts anybody else really is creating victims. So I know what it's like to have to deal with the hurt I cause. You see, what is truly human is common to all of us without exception. What is truly human is common to each of us with no exceptions. The basic principle is that we all share this common humanity. And compassion is going to be born when I can imagine myself in other people's skin, when I can feel their pain and the indignity they suffered because I've known it myself. And if you know it in yourself, you know it in them. If you know it in yourself, you will know it in them. He was so right. So right. Here in this gospel, Jesus is going to his room. He's closing the door, and he's doing some reflecting. He's doing some thinking. He's giving himself some time to just let himself feel his life, feel what he was feeling, and mining all of that for its meaning and for its richness. He was withdrawing to a deserted place, the text tells us. it was time in his life where he had to deal with his own emotions and thoughts, his own feelings, and he had to honor those. He had to honor those by giving them some space in himself. He needed to explore his own experience, to think about his own life. He had just gotten word that his cousin and his friend and his fellow prophet John had been killed. He was a threat to the state, and so he was decapitated. And here's Jesus at the very beginning of his ministry, with a lot of self-doubts, I'm sure, a lot of emotions called fear. What else might he have been feeling? Seeing death come that close. How he too could die, be killed, speaking as he was, like John did, speaking out about the issues of his day and the oppression of the peasant class, the oppressed of his day. Would this be his fate now? Was he scared to death? Was he reconsidering everything? Or was he just plain old sad? But because he went away, he didn't run from any of that. He went away to a place where he could make a space in his heart and his mind for this experience. He could honor here in this deserted place, he could honor what was happening. What was happening right there. And notice what happened next. What happened next was because he went to that place, because of his own suffering, and he was aware of it now and feeling it himself, he was able to reach out in compassion to the suffering of others. It opened him to a sort of solidarity with those who were hurting. Because he had recognized and spent some time first with his own brokenness and his own hunger for meaning. Because he had done that, he could recognize the people around him who had a need and were broken, and find there that there was something he could give them. I know it in you because I know it in me first. I know it in you because I've known it in me first. Honor it in yourself, and you will honor it in others. That's where compassion is born. In that quiet place where I first have to have compassion for myself. Friends, there are times when you just have to close the door to your room, go out into your backyard, go for a walk, go on retreat, make a visit to a chapel, and think about your life. Enter with not a small amount of courage into your own experience, as difficult as it is to feel all over again. Let yourself feel what you feel for a bit longer than you normally would have. And if you do that, it will not be long before you find a capacity in yourself for the other, especially for the suffering of the other. To genuinely connect with another human being in this life that is theirs. And you will begin to find that you have something to say to them. Something to say about their own experience. You won't understand it all ever. Nobody ever understands everything we're going through, or we them. But we will understand something of that. Because at least in some small way, It happened to me.